This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Business by the Numbers. I'm your host, Hunt Emmerich, CPA with Paar, Melis & Associates. A special request this week comes from a listener, Keith, that asked about credit card fees. Like a lot of stuff, I am thinking to myself, man, I've done this episode before. But after doing this episode coming up on, 3.5 years now, there's a ton of stuff that I've touched on that probably needs to be revisited. And credit card fees are probably one of those great examples. Some of this stuff is still constant. Some of this stuff has changed on it. But credit card fees, should you charge it? And, a little bit of an insight on what we talked about back then to what has changed today should be really enlightening for everyone. Before we get into that, I just want to stop and say thank you to you and the rest of the dedicated listeners. Remember, just like Keith, if you have a topic that you want to hear discussed on here or just have a question for me, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelis.com. Want to talk to me about accounting and tax services for your shop and how Paar Melis can help you out? Shoot us a text at 301-307-5413. And lastly, we cannot forget our dedicated sponsors. If you need to hire the next rock star for your team, give Promotive a call. It's time to hire a superstar for your business. What a grind you have in front of you. Great news. You don't have to go at it alone. Introducing Promotive, a full-service staffing solution for your shop. Let them do the heavy lifting and enlist your hiring partner online at gopromotive.com. So if you really want to stir the pot, go ask in one of these shop owners groups how much people are charging for credit card fees, and you will get a range of responses. There are a couple people that will legitimately answer to you on how much they are using and what percentage, and if they're charging sales tax on it, and a probably very, very helpful answer. The other 95% of the people in that group, if it's anything like the posts that I've seen, are going to call you a cheapskate and say you cannot charge for that because of X, Y, and Z. And for some reason, credit card fees are something that are looked at a bit uniquely as other operating expenses. And I think some of that has changed over the years since we last did this. And I think there's a lot of things that are still the same. Highlight of where this originally came up on it and why we're still talking about it now, I think it's pretty interesting. The original topic of credit card fees, and where I saw a lot of people talking about possibly charging this and transferring to costs to the customers, was probably 2021. This is the middle of COVID, where a lot of people's businesses were doing okay, but we had a pretty big wake-up call where a lot of people got scared, and it pushed people back into looking at their finances. I love this. Anything that's going to get you interested in looking at your financials, asking questions, is probably a good school of thought. I talk about this time and time again, is overhead for auto repair shop, budgeting for your overhead, budgeting for your fixed expenses is a very, very hard thing to do for a shop. Your insurance, your utilities, your office supplies, your advertising, everything that goes into your overhead, and for most people, it makes up about a third of your overall sales. It is a massive, massive amount. However, the reason why I'm not a huge proponent of nickel dime yourself to a profit or a really, really stringent budget is if you look at your overhead, that's pretty much what it costs to do business, how you want to do business, where you are. And so a lot of people get frustrated when they come to the same realization is, man, I have hundreds of thousands of dollars of expenses, but I really can't modify any of these. The reason that credit card fees comes up is for most people, credit card fees probably make up 1 to maybe 2% of their overall sales and expenses. If you are doing, $1 million in sales, you're probably spending at least $10,000 to $20,000 a year. Realistically, you're probably spending more than that. Technically, if you look at this, there's not a whole lot of expense line items that you could look at this and say, hey, I could transfer that cost to my customers and I could save or make X amount of money. If you think to yourself, well, there's really not a whole lot of other places that I can do that, then I get the merit. That being said, I think it's a bit misdirected, and I think that there is, probably the same argument to be had about anything else. Look at shop supplies. Everyone that's listening to this, other than those that live in California and New York, are legally allowed to charge shop supply fees as a percentage of your sales. I don't think that anyone here charging for those shop supply fees is arguing that it's only covering the cost. Most people would admit, yeah, I am covering the cost and probably having a little bit of a profit center. If you look at the cost of your parts, you're directly marking up the cost of the parts. You're directly marking up the cost of labor. If you say to yourself, well, yeah, I'm still eating my credit card fees, I'd make that same argument for advertising, office supplies, travel, meals, interest. You're eating every other expense. That is why you're charging profit. The reason why you charge over and above what you pay for parts and over above what you pay for payroll is that profit is supposed to pay for everything else. Credit card fees, for whatever reason, have become an easy target to go after. I think because it's not a big charge, and we are starting to see this happen some other places. I'll be honest with you. If you go and you ask this in public to get people's realistic expectations on this real life experience on it, it's probably not going to be a conducive question. But like always, this is a safe space. I am going to talk about this both sides. We're going to talk about this week of my clients that do this. We're going to talk about my clients that have done this. We're going to talk about maybe some of my feelings on it, and then maybe even an aspect that you haven't really heard before. All while doing this, I want to go down, and as I was reviewing my notes and updating this for, 2025, I noticed that some things are different when we talked about this almost 3 years ago to how they are now. If you were to ask me, Hunt, when you first recorded this episode in 2021 versus flash forward to, today, 2025, how many more, what percentage of your clients are charging credit card fees that weren't back then? So if you want to look at the overall business climate of every single business around the country on this, credit card fees, I would argue in 2021, 22 are very, very rare for most any businesses. And I would say that they have now moved up to being uncommon. And this is completely just my feeling on this. This could be an absolutely wrong number, but 2021, 2022, I feel like you're getting credit card fees on maybe 5% of your charges. And it's smaller businesses, probably more the service side of it, similar to you guys. Today, personally, where I see it around, locally and maybe nationwide as well too, it's still a smaller percentage of it, but maybe we're up to 15%. There is more and more people that are charging credit card fees every single day because most people have never charged for this. So you can't really get away from that. If anything, some people are starting to charge, the additional. There is one aspect on here that I didn't even touch about when I did this before, and I'm going to put this ahead because this is not charging for a credit card fee, but I have seen this more commonly than other things. Instead of negative consequences or like penalizing someone to do negative behavior, you're going to reward them when they do positive behavior. But people are using the same idea on credit cards is, all right, I'm going to leave my customers with a negative taste in their mouth where if they had to pay a credit card fee. However, if I go the opposite direction and say, I'm going to bake in my credit card fee or my price increase to everyone, but I will give them a discount if they pay for it via cash, or in this situation, some of these people were using some of these newer payment methods where it's essentially like an ACH. As far as who that vendor is that they're using for ACH, there is a number of them out there. It is very, very uncommon for my clients to see this. Generally, the reason why your customers are using a credit card fees is they do not have the cash in their bank account. Whether you reward them for paying cash or reward them from essentially doing a bank wire on here, in my experience, most of these people are not doing it just to save the 2% fee. They are doing it because the credit card has money and their debit card does not. Could this work for your business? Do you have a lot of people that like to pay in cash? And if you incentivize them, they could? Sure, but I think that there's a lot of other aspects of this that you might be missing the point. Overall, what we're doing is we're fighting between 1.5% to 2.5% fees around here. So to address the first issue on here is, Hunt, what should I be paying on credit card fees? The general credit card processing fees that I see are around 2.5%. Yours is going to be different than the guy down the street. The guy down the street is going to be different than, someone by him, because it all depends on who your credit card company is and also the mixture of what kind of credit cards you have. We're not going to get into specifics, but if your company does 100% American Express business and my company does 100% Visa business, I'm going to pay half the rate, even if we're on the same thing. American Express gives the best rewards to their customers. They charge the highest fee. It's why some places don't accept American Express. But if you're thinking to yourself and you're saying, Hunt, I'm paying 2.25, I'm paying 2.75, you just threw out that 2.5% as a number. Should I use that as a barometer? Yes and no. If you're looking at this and you're saying, Hunt, you're saying it's 2.5% and I'm paying 4%, does that mean I probably need to find someone else? First, I would argue if you're paying over 4%, are you truly measuring this correctly? Because I haven't really seen it that high. But more or less, yes, if you are paying 4% on this, you need to call someone else. Who? I don't care, but not the person you're using. There is the same thing for the other side of this, right? Hun, I'm paying 0.75%. Again, my first argument back to you would be I don't think that you're measuring that correctly. Not total sales divided by credit card fees, but credit card sales divided by credit card fees. But there is such thing as paying too low. I'm not going to name the company, but and this has not happened. It's not an isolated incident. This is something that the industry has dealt with for years. But if you have someone that is aggressive on this, they are going to sell you guys credit card processing, and they're probably going to call you a gas station. If you are lucky enough and you have a gas station, you can sometimes play this game because gas stations have lower rates than repair shops. If you lucked out and you got one of these gas station rates, and I'd love to hear about it. I've heard this over the years. I had a couple clients that got burned by this, but you will get a lower rate. You'll get 1.5% if they classify you as a gas station. Pretty quickly, Visa, American Express, all these guys figure it out. You don't have many $1,000, $3,000 charges at a gas station, a convenience store. Repair shop, you do. I've seen this old bait and switch, so if you're saying, man, this is so cheap, it can't go wrong, yeah, there is such thing as too cheap. And generally what happens on that is you get away with it for a year, you get away with it for a year and a half, and they figure it out and they switch you. Maybe you're in that spot right now and you're paying too cheap. Would I raise a red flag? Would I go say something? Probably. I'd probably say, if this is this good and it's legitimate and you guys are going to stand behind this, then I would like to probably tell my friends and fellow shop owners because this is a great deal. And if it's not, hey, I still don't want you to switch it nowadays, but I might want to know in the back of my mind, I'm getting a kind of a sweetheart deal until someone finds out about this. Is your recruitment process draining your valuable time and resources? What if there was a partner who could take your recruitment efforts off your plate? Look no further. Promotive is your ultimate solution for hassle-free staffing focused solely on the automotive industry. On the web at gopromotive.com. Promotive understands the challenges you face when searching for the perfect technician or service advisor for your shop. That's why we've developed a platform that takes the hassle out of recruiting. Michelle Tanzi from Euroclinic said, I am a shop owner and recruiting new talent is so time-consuming. Promotive does the majority of the seeking and recruiting. They reach out to the candidates for you, and when they feel they are a good match for you and culture, they make the connection. They follow up throughout the interview process, and we make sure that the candidates are a good fit and the shop is a good fit for the candidates. I admire that they genuinely want both parties to win. They recruited and paired us with a solid B-Tech and Master Tech. Both left a dealership position and are still part of our team. We are very happy with the character and culture match, and both technicians have become valuable team members. Visit our website at gopromotive.com today and join the growing community of shop owners who have found their ideal team members with Promotive. All in all, most people that I see running credit card fees are doing a straight charge. Like I talked about, this is a 5% of my client base that is doing this option, and we have, maybe one or two other options on here. Not very common at all, but most of these guys are doing a 2.5% or 3% fee, depending on what their rates are. Are they having pushback from their customers? Of my clients that are still doing this right now, from what I hear from them, they don't really get any pushback. Maybe they did when they first got it, but also since I did this episode, of every one person that still has a credit card fee, there are probably two other shops that tried it, enacted it, and got so much pushback that they got rid of this. Really, what I'm seeing on this is a very location by location specific thing, and credit card fees in general are a very industry specific thing. If you want to go pay your mortgage right now with a credit card, you can absolutely, and that mortgage company is going to charge you a 3% fee. You and I would never argue that because, of course, why would we expect our mortgage company to take less? If you look in some of the construction industries on this, if you want to pay a large construction bill with a credit card, you can, but there's going to get a 3% fee. Larger dollar amounts, if there's easy alternatives, there's generally going to be fees associated with this. However, for the service industry and repair business in general, we just have never really seen fees like this. And notoriously, anytime my customers have tried to put these in place, they've gotten so much pushback that most of them have generally gotten rid of this stuff. What are the shops that are able to do this and able to get away with this? Because think about this. If you could charge a 3% fee and it was going to not negatively affect your business at all, why wouldn't you do this? Don't get me wrong. When I talk about this, yeah, if you can get this and there is zero downside to it, of course, you just raised your sales, your gross profit, and your profit by 3%. The thing about it that I usually argue is do you think that you have more or less chance to lose 3% of your business or 3% of your sales by pissing people off? Most all of these clients that have enacted it, figured out that it works well, and kept it in those local areas, if you ask them, yeah, we have a credit card fee, but if you try to go to my competitor down the street, he has it. If you go to Napa Auto Parts, they're going to charge it. This is very location specific and, like I said, industry specific. As a whole, in 2025, credit card fees are not common in this industry. However, some of you guys might be in a local market where this is more common and you might be able to get away with it. Try it. People don't like it, get rid of it. It doesn't hurt to ask on this. But again, if you're asking me on this, I'd probably say raise your entire prices by 3%. Almost everyone's paying with a credit card anyways. You're getting your credit card fees without asking for it. If you want to do this, that is the way to do this. It is the most common thing is just to do a flat fee on this. If they decide to pay with cash or a check, then they are going to do something else. There is another option on here, which I will say was probably a lot more common 3 years ago, and I don't really see these guys as much anymore. But the idea was very similar. Instead of eating 2.5% of your sales in credit card fees, why not pass it along to the consumer? And the way that you pass it along to consumer is one of two different ways. You can do like what we talked about up front and say, I'm going to pay for the credit card fees, but for me using that feature, I'm going to charge it to my customer. The second option on here is there's some credit card processor which advertise we have zero processing fees because they don't charge the vendor, they don't charge the company, they charge the actual individuals. The way that that works is if I'm charging a credit card fee and I have a $100 bill, I'm charging the customer $103. I'm going to end up getting $100 and I go on my merry way. The way that this other option works is the credit card processor gets all of the money directly from the customer. That customer pays me $100, but when they hit OK on that credit card machine, what they're actually authorizing is this company to charge it for $103 and then to give me the net amount. Same exact idea as charging a straight charge on it, a little bit different because it's not coming to you guys on there. And again, if you have an area where a lot of other people are using these systems, then great, do it. You're going to get rid of your credit card processing fee. If you are the first time that a customer has ever seen a credit card processing fee or ever seen a credit card processor that kind of shifts the cost over to the consumer, again, you can try to be a trailblazer on it, but this is probably one place that you don't generally want to do it. Overall, if you're going to ask, Hunt, if you were me, would you do this? I will give you a flat answer that no, I would not do this. First and foremost, I am a business owner myself, and I have been faced with this exact problem. You guys probably don't know how much sales we do, but most all of our sales, just like you, are credit card fees. We do have our clients pay through ACH bank transfers and stuff but we pay a massive, massive amount in credit card fees. I hate paying credit card fees, and I don't want to charge my customers credit card fees because, again, even that money that I'm charging to my customer, they're paying me more money and I'm not even getting to keep it. Instead of trying to increase my cost to my customers, to my clients, even though I'm not going to make any more money, why don't we just try to reduce everyone's cost so that instead of making them pay for it, no one's paying for that? So in our business, what we're trying to do is we're trying to shift people off of credit cards. A lot of people don't realize, hey, if I do my monthly fee on a bank account, I pay zero fees, they pay zero fees. However, if we use a credit card on it that they pay off the same month anyways, I end up getting, 97% of my rates. Again, this is not something that most customers care. Most of my clients probably don't care that I'm paying credit card fees. And the end result is your customers probably don't care that you are paying credit card fees either. But trying to give them alternatives, trying to give logical solutions where it's like, hey, this is no sweat off of your back, alternative payment methods. So instead of everyone's prices going up 3%, we all save some money and get the ultimate thing that we want. The same line of thinking on that of why I don't like to do this is you're getting more and more people to look at the invoices. I feel that looking at the credit card fees is a bit of nickel and diming. Hey, there's a lot of other things in their business. The COVID surcharge, the tariff surcharge. More and more when I look at this says your business model was not set up correctly, so you're having to use surcharges to meet a certain profit or certain sales target that you have. Whereas if you look at something like credit card fees, it's not something that anyone should ever be surprised. It's one of the easiest expense line items of your business to estimate because it's directly tied to your sales. So instead of going and figuring out a business that you don't think has any credit card fees and setting your pricing accordingly with a surcharge, your credit card fees are going to be there no matter what. Bake it into your price. And if you forgot about that, good news is you can change it at any point. Increase your prices 3% today, and this is the last time you ever talk about it. Sure, there is some aspects of nickel and diming. There's some aspects of people looking at your invoices, trying to argue this, thinking you're trying to take advantage of them. The number one biggest reason why I don't like to do credit card fees is it's giving a weird incentive to your customers. If you are giving a credit card fees, like I said before, it is a negative consequence. Again, I'm messing up that parenting term on there. But you're saying, if you want to give me credit card fees, you can, but I'm going to penalize you. Same flip side is, as I am rewarding people by paying me in cash or check. Let's start with check. That's an easy one. I don't really like to take personal checks in my business. We still do take them sometimes. I would almost guarantee that you guys never take personal checks. Would you rather get a credit card where you know immediately if it's going to go through or decline within reason and risk having a 2% fee taken out, or accepting Miss or Mrs. Smith's personal check and they go God knows where? Most people don't like personal checks, but if you are going to have a credit card fee, you better be willing to accept any other form of legal tender. Obviously, cash, you can steal credit card deposits. It is much, much harder than stealing cash. Do you think that if you go from a business that has 100% credit cards to 100% cash, that you have a higher or lower than 2% chance that some of this money is going to get stolen? You're incentivizing people to pay you in an alternative method to hopefully avoid the upfront fees. But you're also replacing a medium, which is credit cards and credit card deposits, which are much, much, much harder to embezzle, much harder to steal, and much easier to audit, and replacing it with something like cash, which is the easiest thing to hide, the easiest thing to steal, because if you don't physically see the cash, there is no cash. There's no paper trail for this kind of stuff. Overall, do I think that this is a blanket statement that absolutely no business should be charging credit card fees? No. If anything, I would argue that it is the exact opposite. If you can do this in a way that you can charge more money, that you can get a couple extra dollars in your pocket and offset credit card fees, all without having any negative consequences to your business, you should do that. In reality, it is much, much harder to achieve all of those results without having negative consequences. And I hope that people don't look at this of trying to be a profit center and actually ends up being the exact opposite. As always, please share with friends. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for a future episode, just like Keith did this week, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelis.com. Just want to say thanks again for joining me on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Don't forget to check out the rest of the shows on the aftermarketradionetwork.com and on your favorite podcast listening apps. Thanks again for joining me on Business by the Numbers. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you all next week.
You've been listening to Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demarest on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Hunt on your favorite podcast listening app. Let him know what you'd like him to cover. His email is in the show notes. Hunt is all for advancing the aftermarket.